And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Doc to talk to us a little bit about long-term decision making.
Well, thank you, and I'm going to try to fly through this. So by this time in the meeting, we all understand that we really have trouble doing long-term decision making. Most of the pressures on us drive us to the short term. Maybe because of human instinct, maybe because of the system we're in, maybe for all those reasons. And if you think about financial formulas, most of them are growth formulas. If you just take present value, put anything in a present value calculation above 2-3%, and anything 10 years out isn't worth getting up in the morning for. And so all of those things drive us short term. A different idea is, can we come up with some kind of true north whereby the decisions we make head in some direction that's consistent with a better long-term future? I don't have any magic solution. If I did, I might be trying to sell it, and that's probably the wrong thing to do. But what do we need to do here? We have a lot of complexity. You know, these are a few things. I love 2 or 3 things on this. This was the half-life of a buzzword ain't what it used to be. And so one of the last ones is enterprise-wide risk management, whatever that is. Several people have talked about the capital market complexity. This is what, if you're in business with much of a company, this is the kind of stuff that you're forced to worry about. And notice that last one, that looks from me, my company, outward. What's the risk? Mostly to a continuation of an income stream on which I depend for me and maybe the employees to pay their mortgages. That's the risk. Then we hardly get to this one, with a huge set of risks that none of us can really understand, and all this is interconnected. I showed this in the last set of slides. So business risks are less remote. This, you talk about almost any of these things, real catastrophe may seem like it has a very low probability, even if the outcome could be catastrophic. So what do? Put the probability close to 0, forget it. Don't have time to think about it. So, what's sort of north? So this is just a personal contention to maintain or improve quality of life, however we deal with that, and globally, if we can cope with that, but nobody can. Can you do it one region, one area, one city at a time, something you can influence? Drastically reduce use of energy, virgin raw material, and release of at least the known toxins. Simple concept, tough to do, but people can at least understand that in an organization. They can comprehend it. If it gets too big and muddled, nobody can follow what you're even trying to do. Get into a lot of value shifts even with this simplification. From the top line, bottom line, labor productivity. Good question. Fundamentally, what is efficiency? Been to a good many companies where, God, if we're making money, we must be efficient. Baloney. What's the scale? I mean, drug dealers are efficient by that scheme of measurement. We're presuming that linear growth is good or some linear measurement is good. I was reminded, Bill, during your talk, was a professor a long time. What in the hell is a GPA, a grade point index? What is that supposed to measure? And my own experience with it is, it's not a particularly great predictor of what this person is capable of doing, because it's taken from too limited a context for their overall performance. There is some rough correlation there by prior studies, but don't count on it for any specific individual. Second one, we like to externalize our costs. A lot of companies want to externalize the cost of educating, developing, and training the employees. And at some point, you can't anymore. You cannot expect to get a 21, 22-year-old with 20 years of experience. It ain't going to happen. And so how do you educate and cultivate your own? Where do you put that in the cost equation? And yet, when it's time to cut the cost, where do you cut first? Usually, the training programs. This is the problem of an index. You know, a grade point index is an index. I've messed around with, the Baldrige criteria, a scaling mechanism for innovation for the PACE award, that's for auto suppliers. 3 or 4 others are all indexes. I'm messing around with another one now. They all have the same problem. They have a bias built into them. I might like it because it's partly my bias, but it's still biased. So, if you look differently, let's say you're an MD, and you're looking at whether I or some other organism is healthy, are you looking at an index? Not really, because one measurement being a little out of whack can be a disaster. Factor that into an index and it doesn't tell you anything. It gets buried. And so we've got to learn to think differently. If we have to think in the future about balance, we got to think balance, and how do you measure that? I liked Feynman's comment there at the bottom. You can read that for yourself. Everybody knows who Feynman was. Money is an index. We've belabored that already this morning, so I'm not going to belabor it much more. But it is probably our most insidious index. If you were dispassionate about it, and you look at how we measure things with money, and you take a scientific view, you'd laugh. But we pay, I've seen scientists pay extraordinary attention to it because of what? It is their value system by which they're going to get their next grant, and they got to pay attention. Out of that context, they may see how stupid it is, but when your reward system is based on it, it's different. Like the quotes by Yogi Berra, too. Or another good one is, half the lies they tell about me aren't true. We strive for some point of certainty. We may be inventing it. So we want a gold standard, or latest hot one that's going up and coming down is Bitcoin. Some way to measure value that's kind of a known port in the storm of change. But market values of those things vary too. There is no such thing. We strive for what in many ways is an illusion. So personally, I don't pay much attention to stock markets. They go up and down from time to time. Don't pay much attention to GNP indexes. Look at what we do physically. That's not perfect either, but it's better to measure something important approximately than to confuse the thing by multiplying by a human valuation that then introduces false precision. So you look at a forecast right down to the penny, plus or minus 50%. And question the assumptions. Everybody's seen things like this. Man, you look at a quality award or something, we'll go through measurements like this. And we all need measurements. This was stolen from Toyota. That's a good priority list with measurements for a plain old simple factory. Their priorities in order. Ask another question. They're environmentally committed. Where is the environment in that? So they'll throw in little environment with the safety. It's too much stuff. You can't keep it all in mind. Is innovation low priority to them because it's low on? Yeah, okay. Just start asking questions. What does a list like that begin to suggest about our blind spots, and are we capable of even addressing them? Can we hold all that stuff in mind in any practical way? Straightforward question. Maybe during the day we can discuss this a little bit. How would that list change if you're really serious about environmental concerns? Would it? This is an alternate view of innovation where Jonathan Huebner, who got chewed up for this, looked at the social impact of innovation. The biggies, he contends, happened about 100 years ago. And the stuff that's going on right now with all the stuff we're talking about is a relatively minor social change by comparison. You think about what my great-grandfather went through when he was spanked for reporting a bicycle. Everybody knows the damn thing would fall over and he got whipped. That was only about 150 years, less than 150 years ago. And so we've gone through a lot. And now my next question, and maybe we'll have time to talk, maybe not. In this context, what does innovation really mean? What's significant?
And we do have about 4 or 5 minutes to discuss this, and I would like to. I think this is important. Brad?
What's the first rule of holes? Stop digging. What's the first rule of, or what are the rules of metrics? Given any metric, it will be gamed. And it takes at least 3 interrelated metrics to have any system that actually works. And when we're talking about the metrics that Doc brought up, we need to go back and keep them in the broader context. And I'm keeping to go back through this because many of the things that Doc is talking about here is the firms and organizations and the internal metrics are completely disconnected from the broader context. Anybody else? Yes, Nathaniel?
We call it innovation, but we don't understand its impacts. It's like a duh.
Yeah. The other thing on Doc's chart, next to last chart, that was not a chart of innovations. That was a chart of inventions. Patents. The relationship between patents and innovations is interesting, but not direct. And the more we have behind us, the harder it is to do something interesting going forward. So the fact that that looks that way is not uninteresting. And so, Ken, what do you have for us now?